Video games have always been a safe refuge for me in hard times. There have been plenty of times where it was a needed distraction from life, but it was always more than that for me. Playing Smash or Halo with my friends were some of the best nights of my life, and playing through any of my favorite single-player games was just as fulfilling as watching any great movie or TV show. But as I got older, it was harder and harder to find games that gave me that same feeling. Instead, they started to feel a lot more like just a distraction, and one that was probably causing more harm than good. But in 2017, when I was at one of the lowest points in my life, I didn't care. I just wanted anything that could take my mind off of things. So every few weeks or so, I would head down to GameStop to see what I could find, seeing what was cheap or what seemed fun. But after playing through some of the most acclaimed PS4 games, it got down to slim pickings pretty fast. And the few games I tried just weren't doing anything for me. I'd have fun for about a week, and then I would get bored, and I would never pick it up again. But then, on one fateful trip, I noticed that Bloodborne was down to $20, and it was just staring at me. I don't remember if I grabbed it or it grabbed me, but suddenly I was transported back in time. Sitting on my couch a few years prior, Xbox 360 controller in hand, breezing through the tutorial of Dark Souls, only to get absolutely demolished for the next 15 hours. I'd get smashed with firebombs and sniped in the back by archers or wander into the Black Knight again, and I just died over and over, and I couldn't help but wonder, who even plays these games? It felt like you needed a speedrunner's mastery to even make an ounce of progress. Every single mistake cost a flask, and you only have a few to start, so it's like, great, I guess I just have to play perfectly? Because sure enough, if the 1,000 skeletons and knights aren't bad enough, you still have to then fight Nosferatu Zod on a tiny little bridge, and if you lose, guess what? You're all the way back at that same bonfire. It felt impossible and frustrating, and I swore I was done with FromSoftware right then and there. But then I'm back in this moment, staring at the wall of generic sports games and first-person shooters, and this internal debate is brewing. Like, yes to all of this, but just look at how beautiful it is. I mean, what other games look like this? I've always loved this gothic horror vibe, so I felt like I owed it to myself to at least try, and who knows, maybe this one wouldn't be as hard. So I get the game back home, I turn off the lights, I make my guy, and I sign my contract. I die, but I figured that was supposed to happen. I get some weapons and a new lamp, and I think to myself, wow, this is easy. It's a good thing too, because I really don't think I can handle too much suffering. And this is how it went for the next several hours. Like, the enemies were taking turns on who got to kill me next. I died to everything. The stupid dogs, the snipers, the mobs that came out of nowhere. So I thought I would put it down and try again another day. But the next time I played, it was the same thing. I didn't know where to go or what to do or how to not constantly die. And then next thing I know, I don't even have any blood vials left. And it's like, all right, Miyazaki, you win. I'm not going to subject myself to this kind of torture anymore. And it was upsetting. Not only did I spend $20, but I truly loved so much of what was there. The atmosphere, the art style, the architecture, the music, but I just couldn't understand why they had to make it so hard. Surely it can't be that difficult to add a little slider in a menu that lets people who aren't superhuman have a fighting chance. So I just didn't play it for a while. Every time I did just made me frustrated and depressed, and I was already frustrated and depressed for plenty of other reasons, so I didn't need a video game to make me feel even worse. But there's just something about Bloodborne, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I would see Yharnam when I closed my eyes. It was such a beautifully designed world, and I knew I was barely scratching the surface. So I could only imagine how amazing the rest of the game would be if only I could figure out how to not suck. And after a few weeks of restless nights, I decided to dive back in. I made a new character, I chose a different starting weapon, and I proceeded to get destroyed all over again. I had never spent so much time in a game to make so little progress, and I felt like I was losing my mind. I just could not understand what to do any differently other than spontaneously develop godlike gaming ability overnight. So I went to YouTube. I wanted to bask in the suffering of others. I wanted to see the rage quits and the desk slams and the thrown controllers because I needed to know that I wasn't alone in this pain. But then I find people beating the game without taking a single hit of damage or without leveling their character. People playing with Guitar Hero controllers or DDR pads, and it's like, what am I missing? Why is this so much harder for me than everybody else? And when I found a channel called Fightin' Cowboy, it actually made me angry to see how effortless it was for him. He's looking at notes and recording a walkthrough while playing the game, and he was still doing better than I was. I thought he must have mods or something because there was no way he was playing the same game that I was. But as I kept watching, I started to notice some things. He didn't just spam his attacks, he was more intentional. He didn't charge right into the mob and start swinging, he played it a lot smarter than that. Checking your corners and keeping an eye on your stamina, fighting from a choke point or clearing a path of retreat. This wasn't like the 1,000 other action games that I had played where you can turn off your brain and just mash buttons. This was a lot closer to something like Fight Night, where spacing and stamina management are crucial because one wrong move can be your last.
Was just bulldozed right there.
But I slowly started to get the hang of it, and soon I was hooked because I was actually making progress for the first time. The fear started to wash away and confidence took its place. Every enemy that once had me white-knuckling the controller was now a fight I could actually manage. Every dark alley that once terrified me didn't feel as scary now that I could survive walking it. And then next thing you know, you've walked down every pathway, you've found every shortcut, and this big, crazy, impossible world doesn't feel so impossible anymore. And then all of those pieces started to fall in place. All of the things that drove me crazy started to become the things that I loved the most. The fear and the tension, the uncertainty, having to work hard for these checkpoints, not having a map. It all makes for such a rewarding experience once you get past that steep learning curve. And there it was. All of these years of gaming cynicism started washing away, and suddenly it's like I'm a kid again, playing Ocarina of Time or Knights of the Old Republic or Shadow of the Colossus, the games that transported me from my couch into a world of magic and wonder, the games that helped to shape my childhood or adolescence for the better. But that feeling was something I thought was long behind me. There were plenty of games I still loved and had a lot of fun playing, but that sense of pure magic was something I had all but forgotten as an adult. I thought I was just getting older, which made enough sense to me, but then here I was at 25 years old and at one of the lowest points in my life, and that magical feeling was back in full force. I had my own Frank Reynolds moment.
Oh my God. I get it.
Because you see that the game isn't hard for the sake of being hard. It's about having a fair challenge that's rewarding to overcome. It's not about being frustratingly obtuse just to confuse people. It's about making you think a little bit so that you can get that sense of accomplishment when you figure something out. I mean, the whole concept of getting good is far more about mentality than it is about being technically skilled. Just being patient and aware, learning from your mistakes, and with that proper mindset, these are games that anyone can conquer. But then something else happened. Not only am I having the time of my life from a gaming perspective, but this feeling is starting to reach beyond the screen. Because you realize that the entire time you've been learning how to do better in this game, you've also been getting valuable lessons on how to live your life. The importance of sticking with something even when it's hard or frustrating, or that sometimes you need to take a problem and break it into smaller, more manageable pieces. How sometimes if you're banging your head against the wall, it's because you just need to find a new approach, or how failure can be a good thing because it's an opportunity to learn. It's all right there. So much of the same philosophy behind succeeding in Bloodborne is the same philosophy for living a good life. And it's hard not to feel that this is what games are meant for. Not every game and not all of the time they can just be fun too, but the right games can help to remind us that we're capable or clever or competent, that we can overcome a lot more than we tend to give ourselves credit for. And what a powerful thing that is. because life is hard. There's no difficulty slider that you can just lower whenever you feel like it. There's no map, and the objectives are vague, and you just have to keep pushing into uncharted territory, learning as you go, knowing that you're going to fail many times along the way. But unless you want to get stuck in the tutorial forever, at some point you just have to get back up and keep trying. There's no triumph without failure, courage without fear, and these are the kinds of lessons that Miyazaki is teaching us. It isn't always supposed to be easy, because what in life is worth having that ever just fell into your lap? Learning a new language or an instrument, getting in shape, or starting a YouTube channel. It's all hard, and we all feel like we might not be good enough, but games like Bloodborne can help remind you of what you're capable of when you put your mind to something. It's why Bloodborne will always be so much more than just a game to me, and I think a lot of people feel the same way about FromSoftware. By the time I reached the end of my journey, I felt like a changed man. It reinvigorated a love for gaming that I thought I had lost forever, because it reminded me of why I fell in love with video games in the first place. Before everything became a lazy ripoff or a glorified chore list, before mini-maps and waypoints and UI that looks like someone threw up on the screen, before the constant hand-holding, before battle passes and microtransactions, back when there was challenge and mystery and just good old-fashioned gameplay. It confirmed for me that I wasn't just old and depressed, it actually was the industry that was the problem. So I knew what I had to do, but I was in a tricky spot. I didn't want to just jump in the middle of a franchise, but I had traded the 360 for the PS4, which frustratingly had zero backwards compatibility, and I wasn't going to buy an entire console just to play 2 games. So I was debating whether to start with Dark Souls 2 or 3 when, seemingly out of nowhere, Dark Souls Remastered was released. And all of those memories came rushing back, the firebombs and the archers and the Black Knight. But this time I had a wealth of experience to draw from, pacing myself, managing my stamina, fighting from a choke point, and only trying to fight one enemy at a time, as well as things like learning to double my flasks, which I had never known was a thing. And before long, I was making my way through. Honestly, after playing Bloodborne, this felt like a piece of cake. Like, you mean to tell me I can just backstab enemies? I don't have to hit them with a charged R2 first? I get to have a shield that actually works? Parrying isn't tied to a limited resource, and the timing is much more generous? In so many ways, it is such a different experience to Bloodborne, but it gave me all of that same magic that I had been missing, and it felt like coming home. I never thought that it was possible, but it was every bit as good as Bloodborne in my eyes, and there were even things that I liked more about Dark Souls, like the depth of the magic system, the interconnectedness of the world. I thought it was an absolute masterpiece from start to finish. Now, I've got to come clean. I didn't get into Dark Souls 2 for pretty much all of the reasons that everyone always mentions, and I never ended up making it all the way through Dark Souls 3 because I was playing it live on stream, and what started as a break from Twitch ended up turning into a permanent hiatus, so I just took too much time away from it when I was right in the end game, and it just made it hard to want to go back in. And as for Sekiro, I have it and I have tried it, but it's missing a few too many of the RPG elements for me to have fallen in love with it like I did with the rest of their games, so I'm sure the FromSoft purists would have a bone to pick with me, but as it stands, both Bloodborne and Dark Souls became my all-time favorite games, dethroning the Zelda games that had held that title for almost 20 years. And somehow they managed to top even those with Elden Ring, which I think is arguably the single greatest achievement in video games. I loved it so much that I ended up beating it 3 times and getting every achievement, which is something I almost never do. And so far, Shadow of the Erdtree has been absolutely amazing. I'm still not done with it, so no spoilers please, but it's just a cherry on top of an already pitch-perfect game, and further proof that FromSoftware are in a league all their own when it comes to game design. I think we all know that they have their issues. The multiplayer is and always has been a bit of a joke. Sometimes they push the difficulty too far, and the performance issues, especially on PC, are a real problem worth critiquing. But what game doesn't have issues? Especially a AAA game where so much can go wrong. Whatever issues FromSoftware may have, the bad never even comes close to outweighing all of the good. They have some of the most talented artists and designers in the business. Few other games can compete with the sheer depth and quality of content that you'll find. But I think the real reason behind their success is that feeling of empowerment we get when we play their games, and why most of the negative reviews are either from people who dock too many major points for minor issues that all games suffer from, or are from the kinds of people who never got past the Tree Sentinel. These are not easy games to get into by any means, but just like in life, so much of its greatest treasure is hiding right on the other side of a little bit of discomfort. It's not like playing these games is going to solve every problem in your life or totally fix your mental health. It certainly didn't do that for me, but it gave me a healthier mindset that I've tried to hold on to ever since. And every time I dive back into another FromSoftware title, that same feeling comes back to me. All of that fear and the doubt, but also that sense of accomplishment that few other games can rival. It frankly spoiled other games for me, but I think that's part of FromSoft's power. Not only does it raise your standards for what a gaming experience should be, but it helps to remind you that you're not supposed to only look for this feeling in a video game, but in your actual life, where the stakes may be much higher, the fear of failure much more tangible, but where accomplishing something can actually change your life. Anyways, I think that about sums it up. I've loved these games for a long time, and going through the DLC is just bringing back all of those warm, fuzzy feelings. But I do really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you're all doing well. Feel free to check the Patreon if you want to get updates between videos. But that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.